I feel like one of those guys on NFL, like who's for the Bills? Nobody? Broncos? Oh. So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Standing Grizzly Bear. My English name or my Siape name is Mike Durglo. And all seats, if you wasn't here earlier, all seats from this row back are $20 a seat. So I highly recommend that you move up. Please. I'm serious about moving up. I'm joking about $20. They're going to go up to 40 in a minute. And the reason I'm asking you that is because I want to talk to you and with you, not at you. That's not the way I do business. And this is even, if you're gonna, I'm like a duck on the water with the feet going like 90 miles an hour, but on the top. I might look calm, but I'm not. I'm nervous. I usually don't work in a venue like this, in an auditorium where I'm speaking in front of you. I like to sit around a table and get shit done, just like all of you. So why the hell am I in Iowa in January? Why? Even my family's like, Mike, what are you doing? Iowa. You guys have more winter than we got, though. I live in northwest Montana. We're about an hour from Glacier National Park, a couple hours from Idaho, so we're right up in the corner. About 3 hours to Canada. God's country. That's part of God's country right there. I'm going to introduce you to my Adlawia. That tree is about 2,000 years old. That's a white bark pine. I named that tree, and that means my great-great-grandparent. And if that tree could tell us stories, what stories that tree would tell. And it does. It actually does, as all of you know. If you look at the core, if you do a core sample, it'll tell you drought years, it'll tell you fire years. It tells you a lot. And the kids that I bring to that tree to introduce to that tree, I call it my medicine tree, because we talked about that tree, and my presentation is not about that tree, but that tree has been through some fires. And just the kids that I bring up there and share my Adlawia with, and not just kids, but adults too. If you Google Ghost Forest, you'll meet Adlawia. That'll tell you about some of the work that we're doing in Montana and all over the Northwest to save white bark pine, which is a culturally significant tree for us. We gathered the seeds, and it's a keystone species in that it provides a food source for over 100 different animals, including us historically. It provides shade, which then helps to retain snowpack in the mountains. It provides a root system that helps prevent erosion. So a lot of our plants do a lot of good and different things for us. And the Clark's nutcracker is the bird that disperses the seeds of the white bark pine. Pretty cool. So I do have a disclaimer. I am not a farmer. So see you later. I don't know. But farmers are so important to our livelihood, right? How many of you have ever watched Kiss the Ground? That gives me hope. How about you, Harold? I don't know what your name is, but Harold just came. Yeah, give you Zach. Did it give you hope? Yeah. Awesome. I've done climate change work since about 2009. That's why I went to the White House. That's why I got the award from President Obama. And I'm gonna loosen up here a little bit. Was for working with tribes and other folks across the country, including Canada, on climate change impacts. And a lot of what I do is looking at climate change impacts to cultural resources. So how do we protect those cultural resources, including vegetation, including plants, our medicines, our foods, our first foods, stuff like that, but also on our own health, our human health. So I do a lot of work in that field. But my actual job is historic preservation. I've been working for the tribe for, I know I don't look this old, but 40 years next year. 40 years. And all of those years, most of those years, I worked in natural resource protection. I was environmental director for several years. And now I'm in historic preservation, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with tribal councils. When I went before the council for this job, which was my dad's job. My dad passed away about 8 years ago, and I put in for the position. And I was very blessed because I got the job. It took me 3 tries, but I finally got the job, and I was in my dad's old office in my dad's old job. And every once in a while, I'll get a tap on the shoulder, and I'm hoping I'm doing the right thing, and making him proud, and my ancestors proud, my grandparents, and all the work that we do, all the work that you do, we do for the future generations, right? We hope that what we do, and it's great to see the young people here, we hope that what we're doing here is going to leave a better place for them. It's not for me, it's for them. And we hope we're doing the right thing. And when I came to Iowa, I bought a book about historical use of fire, and it had Iowa in there. Oh, I before I forget, I want to recognize whose ground I stand on. When I travel, and even historically for us, most of our historic enemies were to the east of us, to the east of the Rocky Mountains, the Blackfeet, the Crows, the Gros-Ventres, the Assiniboines, the Sioux. To the west of us was our relatives, the Spokanes, the Coeur d'Alenes, the Okanagans, the Yakimas. So I am Salish, and actually Salish is a dialect. It's a language, and that dialect goes clear to the west coast. So a lot of those coastal tribes, we can understand each other. And so I don't know where I was going. Language, yeah. So when we come to the east, it's like these are all our historical enemies, but in the west, they're our allies, or we hunted bison together and stuff like that. So we have an hour, and Banya said we can close the door and take a nap if we want. Who wants to do that? And guess what? Let me see your bottle. This guy brought vodka.
Pass it around.
Well, thanks. So acknowledgement. That's where I was going. Land acknowledgement. And for me, being raised in my culture around my grandmother could not speak English. My dad, I mean, he went to boarding school, so you're all familiar with all that stuff, the eras and the impacts of boarding school on tribal folks and others. I attended boarding school for 5 years. I I was a good little Catholic boy. I never got in trouble. I always volunteered to wipe off the chalkboard. You younger generation may not even know what a chalkboard is anymore, right? You don't use them. So who lived here before we came? Iowa. How do you say that? Did they say it Iowa? Ojibwe? Or Chippewa, Assiniboine, or Anishinaabe? Meskwaki? Kickapoo? Any I forgot? I know there's a lot more because it's just like Sac and Fox? Yeah. Meskwaki? Oh, same? Potawatomi. Thank you. I appreciate that. Lemlumsh. So anytime I travel, I try to make sure I do that because, you know, a long time ago, I'd either been hightailing it west with your horses, or maybe your women. I don't know. They might have been better looking than the horses. I don't know. Hightailing it west with them, or I'd have been strung up, right? Either one. I do appreciate being here. And I asked Vanya, like I said earlier, how the hell did I come to Iowa? But I appreciate it, and I'm honored. I'm honored to be here with you today. You know, she shared with you guys that I did go to the White House. I got an award from President Obama. The coolest thing about the White House that I did not know was there's a bowling alley in the basement. And we got to drink beer and have cheese and crackers in the bowling alley. That was cool. I said, I don't want to see Barack. I want to see Michelle. She's the good looking one. So, shall we get to my presentation? I introduced you to my Adlalia, shared with you where our reservation is. Our reservation is 1.2 million acres, northwest Montana. About, I think 80% of the tribal enrolled people live on the reservation. About 8,000 of us. And we have a lot of, like I said, it's a beautiful country, and we have a lot of rural natural resources. And, you know, there's a video clip that I did. It's called, what the heck is it? I'll remember. It's on YouTube also, but I talk about the beauty of the valley, and when people travel through the valley on their way up to Glacier National Park, they're on Highway 93, and a lot of the people that live there really have a hard time understanding or believing that climate change is happening. And I just tell them, you know, all you got to do is look up in the mountains. A lot of this stuff is going on down here under our feet that we don't even see. That's what's scary. But the things that we can see tell us that, you know, we need to change the way that we're doing things. We need to change the way that we're living. Personally, and I shared this with Vanya earlier, this might be my last hoorah. So it's like coming 600 miles on a plane, and I love y'all, but to spend 45 minutes with you guys, with all of you, and then fly home. How much sense does that make? I could zoom in. I mean, you know, you get tired of zooming. But I think what's cool is that you meet their dog, you meet their cats, you meet their kids. Every once in a while, you know, you might see a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever. I don't know. So in the book I was reading, talked a lot about historical fires use in Iowa. and surrounding states. And I know that, your geographic region is a lot different than where I live. We do have prairies, we do have grasslands, but ours has not been manipulated quite as much in growing what folks are corn. Is that the major crop here? Corn. What else? Soy. So I mean, the things that I thought about when I watched that movie Kiss the Ground is we manipulate the Mother Earth so much that she becomes sterile, and instead of soil, we're looking at dirt. And I feel like our job, our responsibility is to make dirt into soil. And sometimes that happens naturally. I mean, we've seen some major wildfires. Montana, last year we had a huge one there. California burned, a lot of that burned. You guys have a big, huge, Oklahoma was, right? They're not too far. But the impacts of those fires sometimes sterilize the soil. And it takes years and years and years for that soil to come back. And the trees have to grow back up, if they can even, and then they have to have litter to kind of like fertilize the soil. So it takes so many years for that soil to come back to life. We, like other indigenous people, in the country, in the world, have been using fire as a tool for thousands of years. In the book that I read, when it was even before Lewis and Clark, when the settlers start moving west, when they came here to the mid United States, mid country, Midwest, you say Midwest? Okay, Midwest, they saw a landscape that had been already manipulated by the indigenous people for thousands of years. It wasn't some prehistoric landscape like you might think. So they've been burning these areas for 1,000 years and changing the whole plant communities in these areas. So when Lewis and Clark came through, they had prairie grasses tall, and for buffalo here, yeah, buffalo were thriving on that prairie grass, and the indigenous people had been manipulating this landscape for thousands of years prior to them. I have enough time, I can share some stories with you guys. I do a lot of work with National Park Service and BLM and in my job, and we I think maybe coming up is the Lewis and Clark Centennial, or was that? Anybody know? So they're doing a bunch of work along the Lewis and Clark Trail, trying to enhance the experience that tourists and others can have along the trail. And have you all seen the what was his name that painted the picture of Lewis and Clark meeting the Flatheads? What was his name? Come on, I'll give you $1. Huh? I'll remember. Anyway, that was at Three Forks in kind of southwest Montana, and I'm trying to thought again. That was a long time ago. I get kind of sidetracked. Where's my wallet? Who said that? Who said Charlie Russell? All right. You get $1. Come and get your $1. Thank you. So anyway, before they came through, there was a lot of different things that the tribal people were doing. So the tribal perspective of fire and fire history and its implications for cultural resource protection. We also use it for cultural resource protection, or historically we've also used it for to basically what do you say? Chase away our enemies. They'd set fire to the prairies so that the Blackfeet wouldn't steal our horses and our women. We had good-looking horses, or how was that? We had good-looking women. They had good-looking horses. The relationship between people and place, I feel personally that that's the most important thing. Is that, and I wish we were outside because I'd have y'all feeling our Mother Earth. Because the relationship is what I feel like makes, I mean, we all have a mom, I guess, I hope, you know, and the relationship with our mother is something that is so special, and it's the same with Mother Earth. And I feel like I had, actually, I'll share, I had an awake vision a few years ago, and I woke up like at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't go back to sleep, and I had to draw this vision out. And in my vision, I saw behind my house a pika. Pika is a little rodent that lives at the top of the mountain and depends on the cold weather, depends on snow to survive. And it was the last pika, right on the Mission Mountains. And I saw that pika die. And when that pika died, it was the last one. When that pika died, the deer in the meadow behind my house lifted her head up because she knew that something just happened. She wasn't sure what it was, but she knew, she felt it, that something in the sacred circle of life just changed. And that change happens every time we lose white bark pine, when animals, when plants go extinct. They have a reason, just like we have a reason to be here. That change happens. So I guess the moral of the story in my dream, my vision, was that all things are connected. Everything. And we as human beings are part of that sacred circle. We're not above it, we're not below it. We're part of it. And part of our responsibility is making sure that we take care of that. We take our responsibility in that. And every time, and even that change happens even when we put something back in to the sacred circle, like wolves, for instance. I'm not against wolves at all. Don't misunderstand me. It just takes, when you do that, it takes hundreds of years for the circle to readjust. You take something out, it takes hundreds of years for it to readjust. You put something in, same thing happens. So that connection goes from, guess what? Montana to Iowa. Clear from Montana to Iowa, because Vanya called me. And now every one of you know me. And I know you. I don't know you're not, I just know Harold, but so my work is in cultural historic preservation and protection. So we're looking at different features on the landscape that we're trying to protect. Pictographs, petroglyphs, campsites, historic gathering sites, those types of things, those food and medicine gathering sites, structures, rock cairns, fire pits, those types of things. Buffalo jumps. You guys probably didn't have no buffalo jumps around here, did you? Do you? Oh, Minnesota, yeah. Landforms. So it encompasses everything that has to do with our history with the land. That's cultural ecology. We are pretty fortunate. I don't know if you guys are familiar with our tribe or my tribe. The French people called us Prairie because the men even wore earrings with like pendants in the ears. Actually, I'm Kalispet, and my homeland is where I live. It's on Flathead Lake. It's just south of Flathead Lake. My great-grandparents had their campsite down along the river, and they ran horses. So Vanya, in her introduction, said that we're the Salish and Kootenai, but there's actually three bands. There's Salish, who came from the Bitterroot Valley up north when Governor Stevens did the Hellgate Treaty in 1855. They were put with us, and also the Kootenai. The Kootenai actually originally are from Canada, and they came down, and it's just like the homeland people that lived here. I mean, a lot of the areas were common use areas. Even though we might have been enemies with the Blackfeet, us and the Blackfeet used a lot of those places at different times of the year, so we wouldn't have to kill each other. But bison hunting was a major thing for us, of food. You know, we every spring, every fall, we'd hike over the mountains and hunt bison. And we'd have to figure out, okay, when are the Blackfeet not going to be in Beatty Gulch? Or when are they going to be there? I say Beatty Gulch because actually I just harvested a bison I didn't shoot it, but my brother harvested one 2 weeks ago. Very, very blessed. I would have brought some bison jerky for everybody, but I didn't get it processed yet. Last weekend I got a nice bull, so it's going to feed my family. And they come out of Yellowstone, and we're allowed to hunt bison. That's pretty awesome. I mean, we haven't hunted bison in 200 years, and so it's pretty awesome. But there's a lot of negative media out there too, because there's some shit going on down there that I don't like, man. It's like there's so many people down there. When I went down there last weekend, there's Blackfeet, there's Shoshone-Bannock, there's Crow, there's Nez Perce, Umatilla. So there's a whole bunch of tribe, plus state hunters, plus BFC people. BFC is Buffalo Field Campaign. They're anti-hunting people. They record everything. And then there was a bunch of tourists taking pictures of bighorn sheep right along the road. So it's quite a menagerie, kind of a scary situation. Huh? 30 minutes? Okay. Anybody else want to say something? 30 minutes? Holy smoke. You know, one of the things in the climate work that I've been doing, the use of fire actually brings back a lot of the vegetation that we relied on. The fruits and the berries, huckleberries, come back beautiful in those areas that burn. The white bark pine trees, when we plant those, we planted, I think 3,000 last year, and it takes about 60 to 70 years for those trees to mature to where they're producing their own cones. So it's like, we planted those trees. I'm not going to be around to see those, but that's not why we do what we do, right? we know that that's going to be good for the future generation. But so in doing that, the so the fires help in some ways, and some other ways it could not help. Areas that get burned. You guys know what Medusa head is? It's an invasive plant species that came over recently, I think, from, do you know, China? It's non-native anyway. It's an invasive species that just showed up on our reservation, and it's bad. And our land department used chemicals. They've burned it, and guess what? After they burn, it's like there's twice as much. So, and somebody else talked to me earlier about honeysuckle. So, do we really know if fire is going to be a tool to help us, or is it going to be something that's going to make it worse? So you gotta play with fire. I don't recommend it because you'll pee the bed. Go ahead. Fine. Oh yeah, goats. That's what somebody else said. Use goats. Yeah. Oh yeah. They jump on your cars and. Hmm. Then you can eat them if you get hungry, right? Yeah. So you got to kind of experiment with different things, right, to figure out what it is exactly that's going to help with that invasive plant species. Not always going to be fire, and I'm not. The other disclaimer is that I don't have a PhD. Although at Ace Hardware the other day they had a sale on post hole diggers, and I went and bought one. So now I have a PhD. I don't have a master's degree. I have a BS, and I'm an Indian. So I'm a BS and Indian. How much time we got? So this actually is just my house is just down here. You can't see my house, but this is a historic photo where you can see a lot of open area up here, and that's from fire. And the dominant species, the dominant tree species then was ponderosa pine. Now, the same area is dominated by Doug fir. What is it? Pseudotsuga montesia? Anybody know? Is that right? Oh, give me my dollar back. Doug fir, Pinus ponderosa. So historically, it was open park, and that was manipulation by the indigenous people. Not just that; it was natural lightning caused fires too. But that whole area now is just thick, and the duff and the soil layers in that area, it's not healthy. It's not healthy at all. I mean, you don't see a whole lot of elk or deer or many animals in those areas now because it's so thick. Now, and just a couple years ago, there's a big fire behind my house on the mountainside, and that's when it gets so intense that it's hard for them to control it. I was trying to get fire controlled to backburn right behind my house because I have a field back there because I was worried about that fire coming down the mountainside. So am I telling you that, we want to go back to that pre-contact? That's our goal. That's uh, our fire prevention and the program. Our goal is to go back to pre-contact, how it was then. But it takes a long time, a long, long time, longer than I'll be here. But hopefully we're doing the right thing. And I think when I say tribes, we're all from some tribe. We all came, whether you're German, Italian, Mexican, Native, we all came from some tribe. And I feel like we all have that connection and the respect for the land. And when I saw practical farmers of Iowa, I thought, oh yeah, that tells me that we're trying to do the right thing and be respectful for the land. And I feel like, when you do that, then it makes it better. I mean, when I saw Kiss the Ground, it seemed like economy and what is it? Like government or a lot of ranching and farming is done not because you want to grow chicken. It's because of supply and demand, and there's a lot of things that go into it. I don't know. I'm not a professional. I'm not a chicken farmer either. I wish I was. What are eggs now? $8 a dozen? Dang. And just like here, the forests then were viewed as life-sustaining land. And like the photo that I showed you before that, they needed to be cleaned out once in a while. Not, that cleansing doesn't just happen from fires. It happens in the wintertime too. One of the things that the problems with the blister rust and the pine beetles back home with the white bark pine trees is that we're not seeing the really cold winters. This winter was awesome. There was like 2 weeks that it was almost 30 or 40 below zero. You guys saw that back home. So that, I know, it's kind of like bundle up and start your fire, but I know that that's a good thing. It's cleansing the earth. And in fact, right now is the time of the year that we do our ceremonies. The Sioux and the Eastern tribes have sun dances. We do our ceremonies in the middle of winter. It's a cleansing time. Probably the same with a lot of folks. A lot of our history is oral, and I'll just share a quick story. How much we wrote a book in a chapter in a book, and it's called Biocultural Restoration of White Bark Pine on the Flathead Indian Reservation. It's one chapter in one book in a series of 7 books, and we talk about white bark pine, and it was really a struggle to try to get the editors to understand that the knowledge that I carry is not mine. And those knowledge carriers that I reference in the chapter, a lot of them are no longer with us. And they were saying, well, you got to have them sign it because you're referencing them. I can't have my dad sign it. He's not with us anymore. It took probably 2 months. And I finally said, you know what? Don't put the chapter in the book. If you can't understand that, don't put the chapter in the book. Because I didn't all of a sudden wake up one day and boom, I'm knowledgeable. a wise man or an elder or whatever. I still don't feel like I'm an elder. I don't, that's not, that's the real, you have to earn that. Maybe someday I will be, but right now. So a lot of the knowledge that is passed down, and we've lost so many, and I know you folks have been the same way with COVID. I don't know, like for our tribe, it hit pretty hard. Lost family members and loved ones, and it's kind of nice to come back to this and not do the Zoom and see your faces and hear you laugh when I tell a joke. On Zoom, it's like nobody's laughing. It's weird, but it's good to be here. Coyote, Cinchile, was a very important part of our stories, our creation stories. And now is the time that we tell those stories. So only in the winter can we tell our creation stories, can we tell coyote stories, which are teaching stories. We can't tell them in the summertime or when there's no snow on the ground. So part of those stories, before I forget, if you're interested in what I'm talking about or any of that stuff, you can find a lot of information on our website at csktclimate.org or even cskt.org. There's a series of educational videos and materials that's called Fire on the Land. What? Was that mine? Serious? Oh, I gotta go. Sorry. So yeah, so if you want to check it out, there's a lot of resource. If you work with children, if you work in the schools, there's a lot of resources, educational type resources for that. Beaver, one of the main stories about coyote and beaver was that beaver stole fire. And pretty cool story. And I think in the app, you can listen to the story in our language and you can read it in English. I'm also working on a book, a children's book. That'll be a virtual book. It'll be in Salish, it'll be in Kootenai, and it'll be in English. And it's about white bark pine and the Clark's nutcracker. So watch for that someday. We already said that. Huckleberries and camas. Oh, camas. You guys know what camas is? It's a little bulb that it's almost like an onion. And for us, the only people that can gather and cook camas are the women. Us men can't do it. That might have to change a little bit because just the population and stuff. I mean, and just handing down that knowledge for future generations. So I think what's happening now is the boys and the men are starting to learn how to do these things. There's a place called Durglo, Prairie on the reservation where I've hunted, I've fished, I've gathered all my life. And 3 years ago, fire control burned Durglo Prairie. And the next spring, it was just blue with camas. And I'm like, what? Wow. Because it's never been there that I knew of. So those seeds, those camas seeds have been down there waiting for the right time or the right things to happen, and they come out. That same thing happened in a prairie, grass prairie that's kind of by my office. You guys don't know where my office is, but there's a grass prairie, and they burned that area, and the next summer, all this camas come popping out. So the native plants, they're there. We just got to bring back the environment. You know, maybe they'll just be there when you burn. I don't know. That's what happened home, anyway. Already talked huckleberries, camas, white bark pine is a fire dependent tree. A lot of the work that I do in climate too is incorporating what there's a new buzzword. It's called TEK, traditional ecological knowledge, and it's combining TEK with Western science to do, I mean, to really do a better job at what we do. If we're using Western science and traditional knowledge together, I feel like it makes a lot of difference, because we learn from you, you learn from us. There's a couple projects in Glacier National Park that I just completed. Those publications might come out in the future. So if you want to learn about that, but it's using that traditional and the elders. I didn't tell you this. So we were back in 2012. 2012, we were one of the first tribes in the United States to develop a climate strategy. There was 3 tribes at the time: Swinomish, Nez Perce, and then us. I coordinated that effort, and back then it was just understanding, and what I feel like was the greatest part of that whole process was interviewing and visiting and recording elders, my dad being one of them, during that process, and listening to their stories. And some of them, I mean, you guys know, some elders can talk and talk and talk and talk, and some elders don't like to talk. So you never tell them, "Oh, I've only got 11 minutes." Or you get slapped in the head, right? We talked a lot of things: fry bread, stew, chili, climate change. So using traditional knowledge and Western science, I think, is going to be a good thing. You guys all sleeping? Any questions? Any comments? Yeah. Hold on. Oh, never mind. Oh, here you go.
I had an oral history of a farm I was renting from an old lady who's now passed, so I can't get her permission to tell the story. And when, I don't know if it was when she came there or somebody that was telling her this, that when they came, there were no trees. And the people from out east said, "Hey, you can't farm. You can't farm where there's no trees." But I can tell you, trees grow really well, because I was cleaning up some of those trees. It was the fire that kept it to be prairie.
Mm-hmm.
So there was somebody else farming it before we were.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was sharing a little bit earlier. That book that I was just reading, that said there was trees, and they actually used fire to clear some of those trees out.
I just wanted to know what the dominant grass species is where you're at.
I'll have to think about that. Now it's hemp or marijuana. Never used to be, but now it is. There's a shop on every corner. I'm almost done. So that's actually Flathead River, flows through our reservation. One of the biggest, Flathead Lake is one of the biggest natural freshwater lakes west of the Mississippi. Oh, cool. There I am. My contact information. So questions are $20, answers are $30. Oh no, eggs went up, so questions are 40, answers are 50. I would really like to share one more personal story of mine with you all before I'm done. I don't know, I don't remember what year it was, but I was sitting at my desk minding my own business, and one day and my phone rings, right? And this lady, this crazy lady on the other end is like, "Is this Mike Durglo?" I'm like, maybe. Who is this? Well, she said her name, and she said, I'll just say, my name is Monique Fardham, and I'm with the USDS, I think, in Washington, D.C., and I heard you as a kick-ass speaker, and I want you to go to Florida, the University of Florida, and talk about climate change. Florida, cool. All right, I'll go to Florida. And the auditorium was probably 3 times this size, and it's like, holy shit. And it was like that again. I looked at the venue, and here's all these PhDs and masters, and I'm like, oh God. Anyway, long story short, I did my presentation, and a lot of people said yours was the best because you spoke to us, not at us. And all the professors were, speaking at them. Anyway, I got done, went back to my motel, and it was like the Hilton Garden Inn, nice place. Went outside to have a smoke, and there was this lady out there, elderly lady, very well dressed. And I thought, she has money. I didn't think that. I just thought her just now. I sat by her, so we started talking, visiting. She says, "Where are you from?" I said, "Montana." "Oh, what brings you to Florida?" And I said, "I was invited here to the university to talk about climate change." And as soon as I said that, she says, "Oh, you're a Democrat." I said, "No, I'm not." "You're an independent?" "Not that either." Kind of looked at me funny and said, "You're a Republican?" Probably was going to slap me. I said, "No, I'm not a Republican either." She said, "Well, what are you?" I said, "I'm a human being trying to make a difference for a future generation." That's it. That's it. Lemons. Thank you.